Toon Jam. Toon Jam.
Hello and welcome to Toon Jam. I am Matt.
And I'm J-Man.
And today we are going back in time to our favourite cavemen universe, I guess. Yabba-Dabba Dinosaurs. That's what we're discussing. So Yabba-Dabba Dinosaurs is an American animated streaming television series and a spin-off of the original series, The Flintstones. Oh yeah, if you didn't guess it already. Like Cave Kids, the series focuses on the lives of best friends Pebbles Flintstone and Bam Bam Rubble, who are joined by Dino for many adventures in the Stone Age. The series premiered on HBO Max on September 30th, 2021. This is the first full-length Flintstones TV series in 19 years since The Rubbles, which was a spin-off of the Flintstones as well, and the first since the closure of Hanna-Barbera Studio, and also the first Flintstone TV series without the original creators, William Hanna and Joseph Barbera, who died respectively in 2001 and 2006. Yabba-Dabba Dinosaurs first started production in 2016. It was announced in 2018 with a planned release date for 2019, with plans to be released on the Boomerang subscription service. An animatic from the series was uploaded in August 2018, and in September 2018, the episode The Grass is Always Dinner, which is the episode we watched, was included as part of a survey from Boomerang's newsletter. The episode was later leaked and shared by various websites. The series was intended to have 2 seasons, but in December 18, character designer Will Terrell said that Yabba-Dabba Dinosaurs would not be renewed for a second season. So, yeah, there's 26 episodes of it. And had you heard of this before?
I hadn't actually. No, didn't see it anywhere. Hadn't heard of it, and you'd think you would as well because the name's pretty like. Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, and it's Flintstones. We've covered a few Flintstones ones now, haven't we?
Yeah. Possibly
as many Flintstones as we have He-Man.
That's it.
After today, so
competing.
Yeah, it's got to be up there, top spot for amounts of times covered. But I think this is the first time we've covered one of them outside of the Patreon. So if you're looking for our previous episodes, you'll have to sign up to our Patreon. That's just the way it goes.
That's it.
But that's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about Yabba-Dabba Dinosaurs. So let me first ask you what you think. We don't have a Rotten Tomatoes rating today, unfortunately, but we do have an IMDb rating. So what do you think Yabba-Dabba Dinosaurs has scored on IMDb?
I think it's a 6.4.
6.4. You are wrong.
Oh.
But in a strange turn, it's actually 4.6.
Oh, no way. The old reversey.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that is low.
That is not a good score.
That is not a good score. Glad I didn't look at that before I went in.
Oh, yeah, boy. I was way off.
Yeah. But it was out of 101 ratings, so not many.
Yeah, that's not a lot.
We're clearly not the only people who haven't heard of this. Okay, well, with that being said, what about Twitter? Surely there's people on Twitter that have heard of this and watched.
There certainly is. We've got Geeky Black Girl who says, I'm getting pretty tired, so here's a quick redraw of Pebbles and Bam Bam from the Yabba-Dabba Dinosaurs, and they've drawn some fan art. And then they add, I just really don't like how cheap they look in the reboot.
Okay, yeah, that's something that we will definitely get onto. Is the sort of quality of art and animation in it.
Yeah.
But there you go, your first complaint about it. However, they did draw some fan art for it.
Yeah. And interestingly, I thought it was funny that they said from Yabba-Dabba Dinosaurs, but obviously they could have just been like, from Flintstones or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. So
Especially if they didn't like.
it
So
is
they clearly watched it.
from that.
Mm.
Mm.
Interesting. We have Kian World, who says, why does Yabba-Dabba Dinosaurs look like one of those Flash cartoons that would have been on CartoonNetwork.com in 2002?
Yeah, I mean, this is where we were going to go with it. Let's be honest.
It's happening now.
It does. That's like, it does look like cheap animation, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's really strange style that they've gone with.
Yeah, very good point. It's just, I think it's not even the art style that's the problem. It's just the fact that the animation is so cheap.
Yeah.
Because even the colours and stuff look cheap.
Yeah.
And that kind of ruins the art.
Yeah, it doesn't move slick either, does it? Really,
No.
It's very it's a good 10 frames per second on the animation.
You just have to look up pictures of it, and you can kind of see. It's like the lighting. It does look like a Flash animation.
Yeah. What an odd choice for the Flintstones title. That's all these.
First, the first in so long, like first outside of Hanna-Barbera. Yeah.
Mad. We've got something else in that vein as well from Hyper CP, who says, "God damn Kellogg's kidney beans. Yabba-Dabba Dinosaurs Kellogg Steven Unification."
I mean, yeah.
Which just seems like a long kind of.
So basically, they're complaining about the CalArt scene, and I guess Steven Universe at this point has become the face of that scene. But I don't think this looks like a CalArts.
No, it doesn't really, which is weird. I think CalArts is now just synonymous with styles that people don't like.
Yeah.
It's
because it looks so much like a Flash. It looks older than CalArts arts, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, definitely. And it's also not as clean looking.
Yeah.
So
in fact, it does look like if it was. It looks like more of a 90s era Cartoon Network. It's got sort of a Dexter's Lab.
Yeah.
Sort of Powerpuff Girls-y look to it, I think. But because it's cheap, you can't really. Yeah. It doesn't quite match up.
That's it. Yeah, more Tartakovsky than Rebecca Sugar or whatever.
Exactly.
Don't know. And then finally, we've got a critical human who says, Yabba-Dabba Dinosaurs was actually decent. The animation and art style remind me of the Flintstones on the Rocks and does call back to the limited Hanna-Barbera animation techniques. And I love how it makes Pebbles and Bam Bam less generic, with a greater dynamic and more to do.
So there you go. So we've got an opposite opinion there.
Yeah, somebody did get on with it.
But I mean, the Flintstones on the rock stuff, that looked very much 90s wheelhouse. Yeah. So that's a similar thing, I guess, to what we were saying. I think it doesn't quite look as good as that because of. But again, I do think it's because of the animation style. It's got cheap animation, which is the problem. But I don't know. I think they still do look a bit generic. Bam Bam.
Yeah.
I don't know. But you know they're Pebbles and Bam Bam, don't you?
Yeah.
And I suppose Pebbles and Bam Bam were pretty much babies, weren't they? Like toddlers.
Yeah, exactly.
Before. So this is them.
I think maybe that's what they're getting at as well. Is that it gives the characters maybe a bit of breathing room, as opposed to just being kind of sidelined or just being they exist. Yeah. And they do. I suppose they do have. You can see that they've got their own. Bam Bam looks weirdly beefy. Yeah, it's not weird, but it's
Yeah, somehow they've made him look beefy, even though they haven't, sort of thing. I guess it's his sort of outfit. So yeah, I guess there's something more to it than I'm giving it credit for. But yeah, so we've got a positive there.
Yeah, I got positive amidst quite a lot of criticism.
Yeah, which I suppose comes to that 4 rating, 4.6 rating.
6. Ooh, that's not what you want to see when you go on IMDb, is it? Like if you were like, oh, the Yabba-Dabba Dinosaurs, I wonder if that's any good. And then you go, let's see what other people have said.
Yeah.
To IMDb, and it's like 4.6. I'll give it a miss then, I guess.
It would put you off watching.
It would, yeah.
That's when it starts getting to the low point where you're like, oh, never mind.
Yeah, under 5 is like, nah.
Yeah, it's like just going to be bad.
Yeah, like when it's in the 5s, you still are like, ugh.
Yeah,
it's like a dice roll at best.
It's stupid, really, because you could be surprised. You should always make your own judgment, really.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
You just don't, do you? Like, naturally.
No. Like I've said as well, like I think like I was rating some stuff on IMDb the other day, and like my rating system seems to consist of, if I liked it, it's 7. there's so like few things that are above 7, even in my own ratings. So it's like, yeah, everyone's got their own thing.
Yeah. Well, some people are the reverse, aren't they? It's like, if I like that, it's 10. If I don't, it's 1.
It's 1. Yeah, it's just binary.
Yeah. So I suppose that's kind of why they say IMDb's, when there's a lot of ratings. And bear in mind that there isn't a lot of ratings on.
It's 100 people, isn't it?
So, okay. Well, we've discussed the art style already. But I mean, did you like the art, or?
Not really. I didn't. I mean, it was noticeably different. So you were like, oh, okay, this is a different show from the other stuff. But I mean, it's one thing to have it, because it does look. Someone mentioned on Twitter that it looks like Kablam. Like. Yes.
Yeah, it does exactly. Actually, yeah.
Yeah, like frighteningly, like the 2 main characters have just been kablammed, and so it's obviously we enjoyed Kablam, and it's one thing to have that kind of look of like, this is their kind of, they got lots of edges, and it's just it's whatever. It's not really intricate line art or anything, but then when you see it in motion, it's like, oh, okay. That's not, they haven't sort of, because some shows that are like that, aren't they? Like they've got a very simple art style, but then the animation is like over the top. That's where they put all the effort into. It's super smooth. There's lots of like extra effects in there and stuff. Whereas this is not that. This is like
it's cheap, isn't it?
Yeah, it does feel cheap.
I mean, that's the thing. It looks the same as Kablam did. Kablam was like early. I want to say early computer 2D animation. And even if it wasn't early, it was early enough to be like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I'll accept that. But now you're kind of like, well, we know that this is bad. And I think it's annoying because there's times when I'm like, actually, the characters look like they could be all right.
Yeah.
Sort of like the dinosaurs and stuff like that. Like the idea that, it could actually be okay, but the animation is so cheap, like in its looks, that it just ruins it. What about like take that out? Say it was well animated for a second. Do you think it would be a good, is it funny? Did it hold your attention?
There was a few lines that I was like, oh, that was all right. I think as far as like the story goes, it still felt like it's sort of like a weird Flintstones kind of side story, really, because like Fred and Barney were kind of up to something, and then you sort of cut away to Pebbles and Bam Bam, and they were like doing their own thing, and it was still like you were still back and forth in a little bit, but there was I don't know. It didn't really seem like, for saying Flintstones was like full of gags all the way through, there was pretty much none of that. As far as, you know, other than like the animals are the lawnmowers, that was pretty much the only sort of Flintstone style, you know, thing that was happening in the episode. So I think the humor was pretty much non-existent as far as like what you'd expect.
Yeah, it felt like weak callbacks, didn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think like when like my problem was kind of like you get a glimpse of the classic sort of layout of Flintstones, and you want that more, really.
Yeah.
It's a bit like I don't want to see these in some weird dinosaur valley.
Like,
it's cool that you get to see outside of Bedrock.
Yeah.
At least I just want you have brief glimpses of Fred and Barney getting into trouble, and that feels like the better part of the episode.
Yeah, I know, that was the weird thing. It's like, why has this got 2 minutes? It's like you want more of that. That's the Flintstone stuff that you like, because you know, as much as this is focusing on the kids, it's like, I don't know, it just didn't really feel like anything in particular. It wasn't like, oh, this is really fun, or this is really exciting. It was just kind of bland, it felt like to me. Yeah, they're doing something, but there weren't really any stakes in it, or, you know, it wasn't particularly hilarious. It was just like another side story. Like them as toddlers could have sort of accidentally ended up in some sort of similar situation. It feels like it's like, you know, the characters haven't really developed in a way that's like, oh, this is worthy of its own, you know, title sort of thing. Oh, that's how I felt anyway.
Well, I guess it's the kind of, they were like, it feels more marketed at kids, doesn't it? This.
Yeah.
And that wasn't really the point of Flintstones. It was kind of a family show almost, because some of the jokes, they weren't necessarily, you know, raunchy or anything like that. And you wouldn't be like, oh, I can't believe kids watch this, but you might watch it now and be like, oh, I know, I didn't realize it had jokes like that in it.
Yeah, they were adult, weren't they? Like,
yeah, and like the whole point of Flintstones is kind of you know, it's a pastiche on our life now. They had a brief glimpse of it with sort of the, you know, the phone with the little tablet.
Oh yeah.
And a little dinosaur that acts as like, you know, your Siri or Alexa or whatever. And that was, I think, the only joke that was like, oh yeah, that feels very Flintstones. But it was just a small moment, wasn't it?
Yeah, it really was. It's super brief.
Yeah.
And then Dino is in it as well, but he's also in it for like 5 seconds, so it just keeps running off.
Yeah.
And, like, actually just kind of disappears for the episode.
Yeah, which is like, it kind of, you're going in expecting him to be, well, they kind of make out that he's like, what, it's like 3 main characters in this.
Yeah.
Pebbles, Bam Bam, and Dino. And it's like they didn't know what to do with him. This is the first episode.
Yeah, you'd almost think from the title as well, like, oh, it's going to be super dinosaur heavy.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, this one was, I guess they did have dinosaurs in it and stuff, but it wasn't like, oh wow, it's really all about the dinosaurs. It was just kind of just a result of some other nonsense they'd cooked up, sort of thing. Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, an interesting choice, really, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I think it's a shame because it's nice to go back to sort of Bedrock and stuff, and I think the good thing about Flintstones is that every generation could realistically have the Flintstones.
Yeah.
Like, you could easily reboot it, and you wouldn't even need to reboot it. It'd just be like, there's a new Flintstones out, and it's the same, but they've just got new technology to deal with.
Yeah.
New world problems. That's the whole fun of the Flintstones, is it's the same as now.
Yeah.
And, you know, the kind of message of that, you know, we don't change in a way. I don't know. It just, it seemed to miss the point of it.
Yeah. I think that was it. It was like, this could have really been any other show, couldn't it? Like, it didn't have to be. If you took Flintstones out of it, like, it wouldn't have really made any difference. Like, it could have been any show.
Yeah, it could just been any kid show. Like you could have just had like the Cave Kids, and
Yeah.
they were just cavemen kids, nothing to do with the Flintstones. It could have been Captain Caveman's kids, and it would have been the same show, really.
Yeah, it could have been the same story.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even really particularly like inventive story-wise as well. Like it was like you could sort of smell the what the conclusion was going to be from quite a way off as well. You know, story-wise, it was like, oh, okay. I see where this is going.
It was pretty simple, wasn't it? It was classic horrors, and I mean, you wonder who it was aimed at. I feel like it's aimed at quite a young audience. Like not necessarily like preschool, but
no, but it's got to be pretty young, isn't it?
Yeah. I know. I mean, when I was a kid, I loved Flintstones, and I think visually, it's just nice to look at, isn't it? Like it's very colourful. Not necessarily this show, but Flintstones in general. You know, there's something nice about it, and that's, you know, if you're going to have cheap animation, it kind of ruins one of the best things about the Flintstones. Yeah. In a way. It just seems a real shame, like a real waste of especially when they've, you know, not touched it for so long.
They would have weird one to drop after all that time.
Because you'd be more, you'd have thought they'd be more precious with it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if we saw another soon, though, to be honest.
What do you think? They'll just keep churning them out now?
Well, I think it's that time, and it's like there's a time. You know me. 30 years. 30 years. That's life. Yeah. Flintstones was big in the 60s. It's big in the 90s. Now's the time.
There you go.
That's my prediction, guys.
Let's come back around.
You've heard it here so often. You've unsubscribed and you're no longer listening.
Yeah.
But I'm still pushing it.
It's still there.
But yeah, so I think we will see at least one more attempt. Whether it'll be successful or not, though,
we just don't know.
Okay, well, we've talked about it. Let's move on. Let's give our reviews.
Hey kids, do you love Flintstones but find that it's too old? Well, you're in luck, because now, coming this summer, is the Flintstones completely updated for a brand new audience. Get ready for the Flonkstones, with all your favorite characters, including Frank Flonkstone.
Gee, Barry, we better get to the bowling. Yabba-Dabba ding-dong.
I don't know, Frank. And of course, don't forget their wives, Biddy and Waldo.
Waldo, I'm home.
Frank. Where are you, Biddy?
Right here.
When they finally found their wives, it's time to sort out the kids, the new stars of the show. Bam 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 and Peebelosh.
Hey, Peebelosh, let's get down to the Dinosaur Valley and kick some rocks around.
Whoa, Bam Bam Bam, stop, I'm busy dabbing. Huh, huh, huh.
Bam, bam, bam.
All the favorite catchphrases all the time. You remember Yabba-Dabba Ding Dong.
Yabba-Dabba Ding Dong.
It's the Flintstones, coming this summer.
Okay, so here at Toon Jam we have a 3-point rating system that goes as follows. So, thumbs up, it's the Caveman franchise that you all know and love. Thumbs down, putting a stop to the Caveman franchise you all know and love. After 19 years of inaction. And shaky middle, using Flash when Flash no longer exists. How does that even work?
They do it.
So good, bad, in the middle. So Yabba-Dabba Dinosaurs. Nearly called it Yabba-Dabba Ding Dong then. Yabba-Dabba Dinosaurs. Episode 1, your thoughts?
Yeah, judging solely from the name, thought I was going to enjoy this. Just straight off that, it was like, oh yeah, this sounds fun. But then you see it and you're like, this is less fun than I thought it was going to be. It's one thing to say, you don't like the look or the way it's animated, but this really does just feel kind of like, when did they run out of money completely?
Yeah.
It feels like they had a zero budget on this, and it was made by like two guys in a basement somewhere. It just seeing it in motion is kind of painful at times. So yeah, it's not a spectacle by any means. And then as far as the story goes and the characters, it just didn't seem like it was doing anything. It wasn't really doing anything that felt new, but at the same time, the legacy that it was building on, it didn't seem to sort of bring any of that into their in any notable fashion either. So it was really just kind of the worst of both worlds. It felt like. Yeah, I mean, there was moments where I was like, oh, that was that was okay, but it just wasn't. Just didn't feel like it was necessary. Almost like we said, it could have been any other show. There wasn't lots of Flintstone stuff like all the way through it. Other than the fact that obviously they're the characters, but yeah, it felt very Yabba-Dabba disappointing.
Oh.
So yeah, for me, it's going to be a thumbs down.
Oh boy. Another thumbs down. Okay. Yeah, I was Yabba-Dabba disappointed. Mainly because they've brought back a few things with the HBO Max stuff and whatnot. So it was kind of like I expected a certain level of quality. The last couple, so we've watched the Looney Tunes, the new Looney Tunes, and we watched Jellystone. Mm-hmm. None of them blew me away, but none of them were terrible. They were all right. They were okay to good, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And they gave you more of something that you'd been missing. This kind of, I do wonder how it'd have felt if the animation wasn't so cheap. I think it might be more bearable. I don't think it was terrible, but it wasn't good either. It was pretty run of the mill content wise, and just brought down by its quality like completely, which is such a shame that any show should have to put up with that quality when it's from such a big company. And it's baffling really, because it's such a big property.
Yeah.
The Flintstones, it's such a, we all know the Flintstones sort of thing. It's like the original Simpsons, isn't it really?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a really weird one. I'm not going to give it a thumbs down. I'm going to give it a shaky middle. Because I don't think, as much as it wasn't blowing me away, I'm not going to watch any more of it. I think if you really had a Flintstones itch, it wouldn't quite scratch it, but it'd give you something to at least, veg out to. You wouldn't be like, oh, this is not the Flintstones. Do you know what I mean? You'd just be like, it's like a rubbish version of the Flintstones. It's just like a bit more, but a lower. So it's a lower middle, but a middle, not
low shaky.
Low shaky. So there you go, a middle and a down. Not as bad as last week.
No.
But still,
not great.
We knew we were going to pay for that good streak.
I know.
We knew
Just
it.
didn't think it'd hit as quick or as hard as.
Yeah, as it has been. Well, hopefully, I say it all the time, but hopefully we can bring ourselves back out, get back on top. But I guess we'll have to wait till next week to find that out. Thank you for listening today. Hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, please feel free to rate and review us, whatever you're listening on. It really helps us out, helps people find us. If you'd like to get more Toon Jam, you can do so over on YouTube. We've got all our old episodes on there. So that's you'll find us at Toon Jam Pod. And speaking of, you can also find us on the 3 Yabba-Dabba life destroyers of the internet, Facebook, Instagram and Twitter at Toon Jam Pod. And we always like to hear from you. So if you have any recommendations, or you just want to say hi, or maybe you entirely disagree with us and you're like, what are you on about? Just let us know. We like to have a conversation. So you can find us on at Toon Jam Pod there. And we also have a Patreon where you can get bonus episodes, and we're currently in space. So check that out. We also have a merchandise store. This is the last one. It's bit.ly/Toon Jam Pod, and you can get all sorts of nonsensical t-shirts and the like. So check that out if you're interested. Otherwise, once again, thank you so much for listening. And until next time, you stay jammy.
Hey everyone, thank you for listening. If you want to help the show keep going, you can be extra jammy by heading over to our Patreon page at patreon.com/toonjampod. Here you can get a shout out on the show or unlock bonus episodes. Ratings and reviews anywhere you listen to the podcast also really help us out. So thank you, and stay jammy.